Hello, a very good evening from Durban, South Africa. My name is Dr. Ismail. I'm a physician and fetal surgeon here in South Africa. I haven't posted for a while, but I thought it was important for me to post now just to give you an update of where I am in my speech journey. Well, I joined Michael Williams Pro90D system about 18 months ago, and it has changed and transformed my life forever, and I'm so thankful about that. I actually define myself now as being in the pre-Pro90D phase and the post-Pro90D phase. What Pro90D has done for me, as well as the teachings of Michael Williams, is that it has improved exponentially my standing and status in the scientific community, because now I can articulate very eloquently and very nicely all the concepts that I always used to write about. In fact, the last 6 months have been fantastic. They've been like a dream. I've been invited to present in international conferences around the world. I was in Austria a few months ago, where people came up and said, "My goodness, you're so eloquent and you are able to verbalize and articulate very, very difficult concepts so easily." And it just goes on. And I've presented in many, many national conferences in the last 6 months. I've also taken part in discussion and debates on various scientific topics. And it has certainly improved and changed my life. So what's the secret? Well, the central core of the Pro90D system is this. It is having the ability to be able to change your speaking identity. That is crucial. You need to change your speaking identity. And what do you mean by that? What it means is that you got to move away from your disfluent self to your fluent self. You got to make that transition from disfluency to fluency. Now, what you need to understand is that your disfluent self and the pathways and the neurological pathways that define you as being disfluent is still going to be there. But those pathways neurologically, you can override. You can override that. You can begin to develop new pathways of fluency. And the more you practice and the more you repeat your fluent self, your new speaking identities, those new pathways develop strength. They become strong, right? Neurons that fire together, wire together. And as you keep on practicing, right, you will start developing a habit. You will start developing a new skill. Remember, speaking fluently is a skill that you can develop, just as when you want to learn a new language. It's exactly the same principle. So what you do is that you forget about your disfluent self. You start all over again and develop new pathways, right, in developing a fluent self, a fluent speaking self. And what happens then is that your self-concept and your self-identity begins to transform and begins to change. And the crucial transition you're going to make when you become a fluent speaker is that you do not see yourself anymore as a stutterer or a stammerer or being disfluent. You always see yourself as a fluent speaker, right? And that is absolutely crucial. Why? It is crucial because we all are going to have some sort of disfluencies as we go along. No one can say they are not disfluent. Everybody is disfluent. But when you see yourself, okay, or your self-identity, your self-concept is that of being a fluent speaker, whenever you hit a bump or you become disfluent, it is easier to overcome that bump than if you see yourself as being disfluent. That is a crucial transition to actually make. The beauty of the Pro90D system is this. At the core of the teaching of Pro90D, and I will say the teachings of Michael Williams, is that the Pro90D system teaches you to be an excellent speaker. It teaches you to be an excellent, brilliant, articulate speaker. Now, the focus is therefore not on the stuttering and stammering. The focus is not on it. So we are not there to treat the stuttering, to cure the stuttering. The focus is on making you become and develop into an excellent speaker. And what happens? When your focus is on trying to become an excellent speaker and a brilliant speaker and an articulate speaker, it means that the more you do that, the less you're going to stutter or stammer. So if you speak fluently and you're an excellent speaker for 90% of the time, you cannot be disfluent for 40% of the time. Okay, the numbers just don't add up. So as you develop these techniques of becoming an excellent speaker, of changing your identity, of transforming who you are, of transforming your self-concept, you will find that slowly and incrementally your disfluent self will slowly disappear, because your concentration now is on speaking smoothly and being an excellent speaker. So the disfluent part of it will take care of itself. And this is the concept that I used. So the concept that I used is that I concentrated on becoming an excellent speaker. I didn't concentrate at all on trying to cure this disfluent self, or the stuttering or the stammering. I just focused on becoming an excellent speaker. And as I did that, it helped me in my presentations. It helped me in my confidence, because now I was more interested in delivering a message. I was more interested in delivering what I wanted to say. I was more interested in delivering the concepts rather than worrying about words. Am I going to get blocked? Am I going to get No, I don't think about that anymore. It's all about delivering the message. And that is the most important, crucial transition that you have to make. So when you stand up, when you're faced with a few hundred people and you have to give an impromptu presentation, which I've been doing now for the last few months. In fact, yesterday, I was just speaking to Michael and I said I was actually called on to host an event, and I was put on the spot where I had to speak impromptu for about 15 minutes on a very scientific topic. So when I was called over to speak, the thing that I did and what I looked at and what I concentrated on is I am now a fluent speaker. So I kept on telling myself I'm a fluent speaker, I'm an articulate speaker, I'm an excellent speaker. I am interested in delivering this message to the best of my ability. I am not thinking about difficult words, about blocks, about anything else except that I want to deliver this message to the best of my ability. And believe you me, that mindset, has seen me through many, many presentations, absolutely fluently, never stuttered at all. In fact, I actually hosted the whole evening, which lasted about an hour and a half, where I was asking questions, I was answering questions, and I was basically modulating the entire discussion. And at the end, I had a professor from Holland who came to speak to me and said, you know what, Dr. Borat, it's actually Professor Borat now, you spoke so eloquently. I understood everything that you actually said. You spoke beautifully, you were articulate, and you verbalized so well. And in the back of my mind, I'm saying this is all Pro90D. This is exactly what Michael Williams was talking about at the start of the program. He says, when you know what you have reached, or you've reached your destination, is when people will come up to you and tell you, my goodness, you are eloquent, you speak so well, you can articulate easily. And in my profession, that is really important for me, because as I always say, nobody can see what's in your head, but people can only see how you communicate. And if you're a scientist and you can't communicate well, that doesn't bode well for your future and your career, because a lot of times you have to sort of defend your concepts. You have to defend your discussion. You have to defend what you are saying, your writings, your scientific concepts. And if you can't do that properly and you can't do that well, it's not going to work for you. So you need to be able to engage in discussions and debates and be able to put your point of view forward. And it's something else that I realized, that Michael said in one of his videos, that at the end of the journey, when you know you've arrived, your speech will be an asset to you and will not be a liability. And that's the absolute truth. So for the last maybe 6 or 7 months, my speech has become an asset to me. I'm able to say what I want to say it in an eloquent way, to be able to argue and discuss and defend important concepts, and that is really, really important to me. I've also appeared on radio interviews, on TV interviews, with the same mindset that I am going to speak clearly, I'm going to be articulate. I've changed, right, my speaking identity. I've transformed my speaking identity into a fluent self, and I will not get dragged back into my disfluent self. Always remember, your disfluent part, or the pathways that are disfluent, that was pre-Pro90D, are still going to be there. Okay? The trick, right, the issue is that you got to develop the new pathways that are going to override and become dominant over the existing pathways. So your new speaking identity and your new fluent self has to override and become more dominant over the old disfluent self. When your new speaking identity and your new fluent self, or those pathways, become strong enough to override the old self, then you have arrived at your destination. That is when you will become a fluent speaker, an articulate speaker, right? And you will be able to be impactful. You will speak with authority, and you will influence other people. So I think the question often arises, what is the difference between an excellent speaker and not stuttering or stammering? That's a massive, massive difference between the two. Okay? To become an excellent speaker means you have the ability to influence others, to be authoritative, to be impactful, to change people's minds, to change the mood in the room, and to be able to take people with you in what you are trying to discuss. Stuttering and stammering doesn't even come into the equation. That's just the basics. But being an excellent speaker creates a whole new environment for you. If you are not going to change your speaking identity, and you're not going to change the way you speak and become articulate and all of that, and all you're interested in is not stuttering or stammering, well, then you will be stuck with tricks and tips and strategies that will work in some speaking situations and will not work in others. In high pressure situations, it may not work because you have not fundamentally changed the way you speak. So as Michael says, that the most important thing in this whole journey is not to band-aid this whole disfluent self story. You got to do surgery. Don't band-aid it. You got to do major surgery, and you got to change. You got to fundamentally change who you are as a speaker. Right? And you will find that once you develop this confidence of speaking clearly, of being able to articulate and verbalize what you want to say, that confidence will track into other areas in your life, and you will become really confident in other areas as well. So I thought it was important for me to give you an update on my speech journey, right, and where I am at the moment. And so I'll speak to you again, and you keep well. Ta-da, bye-bye.